Grid Legends picks up where the 2019 reboot of the series leaves off, but brings new innovations to the table and optimization for the new consoles like the PS5, Xbox Series X, and Series S. Arguably, the biggest new feature of Grid Legends is the Driven to Glory story mode, featuring live-action cutscenes. There are other new innovations as well, such as drop-in multiplayer. There's also the obligatory new cars, new locations, and new courses. But does all of this add up to make Grid Legends a better game than its predecessor? Let's get into it. Just like in Codemasters F1 2021, Grid Legends' marquee new feature is an in-depth story mode called Driven to Glory. However, unlike F1 2021, the story mode in Legends plays out with live-action cutscenes. The scenes are filmed with real actors in a combination of physical and digital environments. A similar technique was used in the Mandalorian Disney Plus show. This method of production allowed the crew to easily change locations despite the fact that filming mostly took place during COVID lockdown. The story in Grid Legends is presented in a documentary style that follows the struggling Seneca team on its quest to graduate from the semi-pro league to the pros. The player takes on the role of a promising rookie driver who has the potential to pull the team from mediocrity to, well, glory. For the most part, the characters avoid obvious archetypes with the exception of the story's villain. However, the villain is such a jerk that it's enjoyable to watch anyway.
You seen this new lobster place down the road? You gotta choose which one you kill. You go to this big, box where they're all in. It's all blue and gnarly, and you're like, I want to kill that guy. Do I kill it? No, I'm not an animal. Okay, let's get going.
Okay. Do you want to say your name and introduce yourself?
They know who I am.
I won't go too far into it to avoid spoilers, but I will say that it's certainly worth checking out. Though unfortunately, Grid Legends story mode runs into the same issue that plagued F1 2021's story, and that's its linear nature. Because the story is linear, as long as I met the goal set at each race event, my actions had no effect on the narrative. No matter how dominant I was, the story still treated the Seneca team as the plucky underdog. Seeing that my performance didn't change the path of the story at all took me out of it a little bit. However, for what it's worth, it was still a mostly enjoyable experience. There are over 100 cars available in Grid Legends, many of them returning from Grid 2019, but there are quite a few newcomers. Some of the most noticeable additions are electric cars like the Lotus Evija, which I'm pretty sure I said wrong, and stadium racing trucks. Hypercars like the Aston Martin Valkyrie make the roster as well. I would have liked to see more cars available at launch, but Codemasters has confirmed that more vehicles will become available in future DLC. When it comes to courses, there are 22 total locations, most of them returning from the previous game, but there are also new locations, such as London, Suzuka Circuit, and Strada Alpina. Each location has several track layouts available for a total of 130 possible routes. The locations tend to be bright and vibrant, from the nighttime fireworks display in London to the snow-capped mountains in the background of Strada Alpina. Each environment is visually impressive. Route design is satisfyingly varied with high-speed courses which emphasize controlling a car at the limit, to tight point-to-point street courses which demand high levels of technical driving technique. Just as with the cars, I would have liked to see more tracks available at launch, but the courses on tap are enough to keep things fresh and interesting, especially when considering the race creator mode, which I'll get into later. Grid Legends is the first game in the series designed with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series consoles in mind. That means Codemasters were in the position to push the visuals and frame rates to realms that were previously only attainable on PC. Playing on an Xbox Series X console, Legends ran at a 4K resolution at a smooth 60 frames per second. There were no noticeable frame dips during my time with the game, and there's even headroom for more. If your TV is capable and you're using the right hardware, you can play Grid Legends at up to 120 frames per second. Unfortunately, my display doesn't have that capability, so I was unable to test it out. Though I'm assuming that at the higher frame rate, the resolution and other visual enhancements will take a hit. Speaking of, Grid Legends looks excellent running on current hardware. While this game doesn't utilize ray tracing while racing, the lighting effects are still striking. Texture details are sharp, and I didn't detect any significant texture pop-in. The courses and the new locations such as London have impressive detail and nuance, and make Grid Legends feel like a true next-gen experience. Grid Legends continues the trend of targeting that sweet spot between arcade racer and hardcore simulator. Legends' handling characteristics are much more forgiving than that of the Forza Motorsports and Gran Turismos of the world, but if you turn the driving assist off, it still requires a fair amount of skill to keep things on the track. Grid Legends features multiple car types, and each of them has its own unique handling nuances. Open wheel cars feel exceptionally grippy, while off-road trucks feel appropriately floaty. I did find it hard to have smooth steering inputs when using a control pad. It seems that moving even a little bit past the midpoint of steering angle immediately puts the car to full lock, which leads to snap oversteer. That made some corners much trickier than they needed to be. Though with some adjustments I was able to smooth things out and it got much better. One area in which Legends excels is the AI. The Nemesis mode returns, which makes racing against the computer nearly as unpredictable as racing against human opponents. AI drivers race just as hard against each other as they do against you, and they are just as prone to mistakes and mechanical failures. It makes for exciting gameplay as long as the difficulty is turned up. In easier modes, the AI opponents tend to race each other a little too hard, which allows you to get ahead of the pack pretty easily as the computer-controlled racers are fighting amongst themselves. The Race Creator mode in Grid Legends enables players to smash together several car types on any track available in the game. Those creations can be made available as online sessions, allowing a potential wellspring of user-created content. Among the available game modes, my favorite is Elimination, in which backmarkers get bumped off in timed intervals. The result is frantic racing to make sure you're not on the bubble when the timer counts down. Electric racing is also fairly interesting. When racing electric cars, special boost gates can be placed on the track. Players will have to drive through them to build a boost meter. The trick is that the boost gates are placed off the racing line, so driving through them becomes a risk versus reward mechanic. When building out a team, a set of pre-designed liveries can be chosen for each car. Though if we're being honest, most of the designs were fairly mediocre. As far as grid games have come, it's kind of weird that in 2022 it doesn't have a more robust livery editor similar to what's found in games like Forza and Gran Turismo. I wouldn't say that Grid needs a livery editor that's as deep as what you would find in those games, but it could certainly use something better than what it currently offers. Hopefully the next Grid game will remedy this. Grid Legends is also void of body kit modifications and wheel choices. However, I didn't really miss those kind of things in a game like this, although they would be nice to have. It's immediately apparent that beyond the story mode, the developers of Grid Legends wanted multiplayer to be at the heart of this game. The player limit in online races has been increased to a whopping 22 cars. AI cars will fill in the gaps between human players, ensuring that there's always a full grid. Where things really get interesting is Grid Legends' new drop-in system. It allows players to join a race in progress by replacing an existing AI driver. There's also full cross-play functionality, allowing PlayStation, Xbox, and PC players to all race together in the same session. Between the increased grid, race creator, cross-play, and drop-in functionality, the multiplayer mode has a lot to offer on paper. However, in my experience, there weren't many highly populated sessions available. This could be a function of time zone and region. Either way, I found myself struggling to find play sessions with more than 4 or 5 human players in it. Beyond that, wait times between races were long as I found myself at the mercy of the session host, who would often take their sweet time and getting the next race started. While Codemasters can't possibly control how indecisive a human player can be, a system to mitigate the downtime between races would be appreciated. The drop-in function also ended up being somewhat disappointing in practice. Generally speaking, when joining a race in progress, the drop-in feature would have me taking over a backmarker AI car that was as much as 20 seconds behind the next position, making my odds of a respectable finish virtually impossible. There's potential for a much better multiplayer experience in Grid Legends, but the community needs to grow some more and Codemasters needs to make a few adjustments. In the beginning of this review, I asked if Grid Legends is better than its predecessor. After spending some time with the game, I'd say yes. Grid Legends offers consistent racing action and never lets up. Innovative features such as Elimination Racing, Nemesis Mode, and Race Creator keep things fresh and fun. There's certainly room for improvement, especially when it comes to customization and the multiplayer experience, but Codemasters has been good at supporting its games post-launch. I can confidently recommend Grid Legends to anyone looking for a balanced, fun, and fresh racing experience that doesn't give in to monotony. An early copy of Grid Legends was provided for the purposes of this review. However, neither EA nor Codemasters had any pre-approval in this review, and they're seeing it for the first time just like you are. All opinions shared here are our own. I hope our review of Grid Legends was helpful for you. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit the notification bell so you know right away when new videos go live. Thanks for watching.